I think I'm going to piss some people off. Hey guys, Theo here. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I was tagged in my very first BookTube tag. I was tagged by the lovely Jack in the Book Stack, and she was in turn tagged by one of the nicest people I know, Scott, the bald booktuber. I'll put a link to both their channels in the description below, so go check them out. But basically, we got 9 questions, and I'll try and keep this short and sweet. Question number 1, a popular book or series that you didn't like. This is going to upset some people, but I have to say Joe Abercrombie's The First Law trilogy. Now, before everyone gets upset, there's nothing that I found bad about it. I just was a little bit lukewarm on the whole story overall. I'm a pretty plot-driven reader, and while I appreciate character development, the story needs to go somewhere for me, and at the end of the day, I was left sort of wondering what the whole point was. And I have to give credit where it's due. Joe Abercrombie is synonymous with the grimdark genre. His writing is incredible. His dialogue is some of the best that I've read. His characters are incredibly fleshed out, and I appreciated that. I still think about some of those characters. Glocta comes to mind. But at the end of the day, I need a little bit more story. I needed to kind of care a little bit more. And for some reason, I don't really understand why, I just kind of left not really caring about where the story goes and what happens to the characters. I'm sorry, that's probably going to bother some people, but there's that one. A popular book or series that everyone else seems to hate, but that you love. This one I'm going to cheat on a little bit. I've been really fortunate to not have picked up something that I really hate, particularly something that I hate that other people really like. I've played it a little bit safe over the last couple of years, and I've read a big backlog of some of the most popular series. For me, I've been pretty lucky. I know exactly what I like. That's a bit of a cop-out answer. So far, I've been pretty fortunate. So for now, I'm going to stick with that. Question number 3, a love triangle where the main character ended up with the person you did not want them to end up with, or an OTP that you don't like. Nothing really comes to mind for this one, but I'm about to start reading the 3rd book in the Nevernight trilogy with a good friend of mine, Steph. And I would say in that book, there is a pairing that you don't necessarily see coming, and one that at the beginning, I didn't really know how I felt about it. It's a bit of a twist. As I got to the conclusion of the 2nd book, I sort of understood the motivations and how these two could be, together. But at the beginning, I didn't really like them together. It's a personality thing for me. I really didn't see them together. So there you go. Question number 4, a popular book genre that you hardly reach for. For me, that's going to be romance. I think there's a place for well-written romance in basically any book. But for me, I'm not going to pick up something just for the sake of the romance in it, although it's a very popular genre. That and probably YA. I would say I'm not necessarily picking up a whole lot of YA books anymore. I've enjoyed my fair share of them. I'm still going to read some here and there. And some tread the line of YA and adult quite nicely. But YA, I tend to steer clear if I know that it's very YA. It's definitely not my jam. Question number 5, a popular or beloved character that you do not like. I'm sorry, Scott, I'm going to have to steal your answer for this one. For me, it is also Murderbot. I don't understand why people like this character or the books. I've read 2 of the novellas and they were okay. The writing wasn't terrible. The story was okay. I just didn't find Murderbot to be as charming as people perceive. I think the humor and the sarcasm and kind of the disinterest became a little bit repetitive and a little bit too much for me at the end of the day. So for me, I don't really get the whole Murderbot thing, and it's probably not a series that I'll continue with. So question number 6, a popular author that you can't seem to get into. This is a bit of a cheat answer and a bit of a shocker, but my answer here is Robert Jordan. For the sole reason that I haven't been able to read The Wheel of Time. I picked up the first book when I was younger in my late teens. I tried it twice. I got about a third of the way the first time, maybe about the same the second time, to be honest. I just couldn't finish it. I think I got preoccupied with other things. Reading wasn't a huge priority. It was a popular book at the time, as it's always sort of been, and I couldn't really get into it, to be honest. To date, I haven't read The Wheel of Time. It's something that I really want to do. I kind of missed the timing for when the show came out, although fans of the books will probably say that's not much of a loss. But yeah, it's definitely a series that I'm going to pick up. I just don't know exactly when. For me, it's always been the time commitment. I haven't been able to prioritize it. It's a big, 16 book commitment. So that's just one that I haven't yet gotten into. It's one that I happened to try when I was younger and I didn't get very far for some reason. So I'm excited to try that maybe next year. Question number 7, a popular book trope that you're tired of seeing. To be honest with you, I actually like tropes. I like the typical fantasy tropes. I'm a sucker for them if they're done well. And sometimes when they're turned on their head a little bit. I really do dislike the whole Mary Sue, Gary Stu type of scenario, I think it's called. But basically where these characters are just sort of good at everything all the time. They need minimal training in order to, save the world. I like development in characters. I like things to be earned. I like to be part of that journey, understand the struggle and the motivations and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyway, the whole thing where a character is just good at everything all the time, I think I'm just going to go with that. Question number 8, a popular series that you have no interest in reading. This is probably going to bother some people too, but for me, it's the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. I've heard this touted as one of the best fantasy epic series of all time. And that's probably the case. I've heard that the writing is incredible. I've heard that the ideas are. I actually like the story of how the stories were developed. And Steven Erikson is Canadian, as am I, so I'm supposed to have a little bit of loyalty that way. But it's just something that I don't think I'll pick up anytime soon. To be completely honest, I'm a little bit intimidated by it. When I heard that you need to pay a lot of attention, people take notes, people study it, you get thrown in with different characters, different worlds. Things are not necessarily sequential or tied up in a nice bow. For me, it sounds like a little bit too much work right now. I'd be curious to hear from you guys if you think it's completely worth it. Tell me why I should read it. I'm up to trying new things, but this one's always sort of intimidated me. Malazan is something I definitely want to visit. I just don't know when that's going to be. And finally, question number 9. Saying goes, the book is always better than the movie, but what movie or TV show adaptation do you prefer more than the book? I'm going to go with 2 here. One based on something that I read not that long ago with some friends, and another one that is just iconic. And the first is Fight Club. I read that with a couple good friends of mine. It's one where, to be honest with you, I really didn't enjoy the book. The writing style was a little bit jarring. I think it was done that way deliberately. My friend Madison totally hit the nail on the head and said it read kind of like a screenplay, which I totally can see. So it was just not really my style. The story was a little bit weird and crazy. I respect what it did. I appreciate what it means to pop culture and society and the themes that are sort of explored. It wasn't an enjoyable read. I'm glad I read it, but it's not something I would ever read again. But the movie, the aesthetic, I think is exactly what the book was trying to portray. I think the movie is actually quite well done. And the friends that I read the book together all sort of agreed that the ending was better. The ending is different. I think this was a situation where the movie was a better medium. And the other is obviously Jurassic Park. Growing up and having watched Jurassic Park and then reading Michael Crichton for the first time a year and a half ago, I have to say that the book is incredible. Michael Crichton is awesome and I'm going to read much more of him. But this was a situation where the vision was executed perfectly. The movie was amazing. It meant a ton to the film industry in terms of special effects and what's possible. It was revolutionary. And I think it still holds up. So that is definitely one where I think the book is good, but the movie was incredible and changed so much and meant so much to movies in general. So that's my answer there. Again, I was tagged by Jack and the Book Stack. Thank you. I'll tag her video and her channel below, as well as Scott, the bald booktuber, because he's just awesome. So now I'd like to tag someone that I got to know over the last little while, someone who just started their booktube channel very recently, and that is Crow at Crow's Nest. I'd be very curious to see what your answers are. I know you have a lot of popular and unpopular opinions, and I know you're a prolific reader, so I'd love to hear your take on these questions. And of course, you can check out Crow's YouTube channel down below as well. That's it for me. Until next time.